In the beginning of the episode, we see a flashback of Kelly giving birth to Zach, who is born with a caul. In the present, Kelly tells Zach that a caul baby is very rare and is a great omen. Since Zach was fed with the Master's white, Zach is afraid he will turn into a vampire. However, Kelly assures Zach he is destined for great things, explaining that he will help the Master soon. In the next scene, Satrakian and Vasily find out that Lumen is gone and suspect Quinlan. Since Vasily never trusted Quinlan, he had slipped a tiny GPS tracking device in the book's silver binding. Hence, the duo heads out to find Quinlan. Back at his residence, Ephraim hesitates, thinking if he is trading future human race for his son. However, Quinlan explains that the answer to both of their problems is only the Lumen, which will help Ephraim get his son and Quinlan kill his father. Hearing Quinlan, Ephraim is astonished. In a flashback of Rome, 58 AD, Quinlan is a slave locked inside a cage and people pay to watch him feed on goats. One night, an old lady named Encaria, who has been searching for Quinlan for a very long time, pays the captor and takes Quinlan with her, explaining he is a prince born of dark being and is blessed as a savior of the human race. She teaches him how to speak and behave like a human alone. Additionally, she teaches him to have control over his blood hunger and suppress his vampire side. There is a prophecy that when a pregnant woman is turned by the Master, the creature born from her will be the reason for the downfall of the Master. Since Quinlan is the firstborn, he is destined to take down the Master. However, if the Master dies, Quinlan along with all the vampires also die. Although the Master is hunting for Quinlan, Ankaria explains he has to stay hidden with her until he is ready to fulfill his prophecy. Back in the present, Quinlan tells Ephraim how he was born. Initially, he was conceived from 2 humans, but was born as a half-vampire when his pregnant mother was fed on by the Master. Although the Master could clearly hear his beating heart while feeding on Quinlan's mother, he somehow didn't kill him. So, Quinlan believes the Master has sown the seed of his own destruction through Quinlan's destiny. In a flashback of 60 AD, the Master's minions locate Quinlan and almost feed on Encaria. Fortunately, Quinlan fights them and takes them down. Since the Master's minions has been able to locate Quinlan, Ankaria takes Quinlan and travel across snow-covered mountains to an isolated location. However, the Master, in his old form, finds them again and puts Quinlan into an ultimate test of inciting his vampire side by trapping him and Ankaria inside a cave. After several days, Ankaria starves and finds herself on the brink of death. She urges Quinlan to feed on her so that he can face the Master who waits for him on the other side of the cave. When she says she loves Quinlan like a son and wants him to end her suffering, Quinlan drinks from her. Meanwhile, the Master arrives and Quinlan tries to fight with him, but fails. So Quinlan promises to return back and destroy the Master once he is ready. Elsewhere, Gus and a reluctant Angel try to hide Gus's vampire mother from members of the Safe Streets Initiative. During a sweep of the buildings, Gus puts his mother on a wheelchair and ties her. With the help of Angel, he sneaks her past some members of the initiative, but it's not long before they find her. The officers catch them and instead of putting them in jail, they are forced to conduct building sweeps of their own, since the Safe Streets Initiative have lost a lot of their manpower. Next, Ephraim and Quinlan go to a deserted convenience store, grab a vampire, and talk to the Master through it. Ephraim asks the Master to come after sundown at a favorite fishing spot of Ephraim, and bring Zach with him, unharmed and as human, if he wants the Lumen. Later that evening, Ephraim reaches the location and waits for the Master. Afterwards, the Master arrives with Kelly and Zach with his face covered. Ephraim asks Kelly to bring Zach to him. When they are close enough, Ephraim asks to remove Zach's hood. Of course, the Master never keeps his word. The boy is not Zach but a vampire and it quickly attacks Ephraim. Fortunately, using the Lumen, which has silver binding, Ephraim is able to stop both Kelly and the little vampire. Eventually, the Lumen is in the Master's hands. Just when it seems like the Master has won, Vasily and Satrakian arrive to retrieve the Lumen with the help of a GPS tracking device on the book. However, before Satrakian can intervene, Quinlan arrives to kill the Master, but he is shot by the vampire Navy SEALs and is injured. Meanwhile, Satrakian throws a silver grenade at the Master and a couple of Navy SEAL vampires. This injures the Master and Quinlan takes the opportunity to decapitate him. Soon Quinlan also collapses on the ground. Although the Master is executed, a large crimson worm slithers from the Master's body down to a drain, most likely in the search of a new host. In the Special Command Center, Feraldo is dealing with a critical PR problem, where the public is aware of the NYPD recruiting prisoners and forcing them into chain gangs. So the media is all over what is happening. and Feraldo can't do anything to combat the media. Fortunately, Quinlan is just injured and alive. Meanwhile, Ephraim reveals to Satrakian and Vasily about the Master's deal, Lumen in exchange for Zach. Satrakian and Vasily are mad at Ephraim for stealing the book and betraying them. Later, Ephraim wakes up at Vasily's place with a knock on his door. To his surprise, it's Dutch. She shares about how she has been dealing with trauma after the I-Court incident, and asks Ephraim to let her stay with him, and he agrees. Elsewhere, Zach hears strange noises outside his door. A vampire enters the room and tries to attack him. Scared, Zach cries for help to Kelly, who arrives, killing the vampire. After the Master was beheaded, all his minions are now on their own without the Master's control. So it came to sting Zach, but Kelly assures she'll protect him. When Kelly hugs Zach, she can't resist her hunger for blood. But before she could act, Icorst arrives and she calms down. Since the Master's previous plan has been ruined, Icorst explains now it is time to strike back. Later, Quinlan regains his consciousness and finds Satrakian sitting by his side. Since the prophecy that Quinlan and other vampires will die after the Master dies has failed, Satrakian is reluctant to believe that the Master is dead for real even after being beheaded. Elsewhere, Gus and Angel, the newest members of the squads forced to rid Manhattan's streets of vampires, are sent out on their first mission to clear the tunnels. Soon, their unit is under siege in the tunnels, though Gus and Angel make it out alive along with few others. Meanwhile, Feraldo arrives at the scene to see exactly what sort of activities the squads are up to. Although she isn't pleased with the operation, she leaves without taking direct action. In the next scene, Icorst plans to use Feraldo's employees against her by turning them and then implanting bombs under their skin. As part of a coordinated attack, 2 of the employees enter Feraldo's office without being questioned. Suddenly, they explode, scattering worms and white ooze everywhere. One worm crawls into Feraldo's eye, but thankfully Vasily, who was there to share the news of Master's demise to Feraldo, manages to kill the worm with UV light. Luckily, she is not infected. Later, when Satrakian and Quinlan visit the Ancients to inform them that the Master is slaughtered, they explain that if the Crimson Worm, the essence of the Master's survival, has escaped, that means the Master will take another host body and return soon. Since the Ancients have not put any effort in destroying the Master, Quinlan furiously lashes out at them and vows he will never come to see them again. The same evening, when Ephraim and Dutch set out on a mission to find food and alcohol, a vampire appears, channeling the voice of the Master. At a gunpoint, Ephraim asks where Zach is and what has happened to him, to which the Master replies Zach is always with him. We hear Satrakian narrating an update on the worsening world situation. In the course of a week, the vampires have spread to a lot of cities in the US and several countries around the globe. In the following scene, Dutch and Ephraim play chess in a Brooklyn park to pass the time while they wait for vampires to appear. Soon the vampires emerge from the bushes and the duo takes each one of them down, keeping only one as a test subject. Later, Ephraim and Dutch strap the vampire. Ephraim stays all night, removing the vampire's stinger, spinal column, and brain. Finding the center of the vampire's nervous system, he discovers that a massive gray worms located inside their brain are what make the vampires communicate, make decisions, and follow the Master's orders. When Dutch heats coffee, the massive worms responds to the microwave. The duo comes to a theory that magnetron inside the microwave might have activated the worms, and it is likely that the Master transmits signals to his army in a similar way. In order to find out, the duo leave a vampire locked inside a cage, use a magnetron to prevent it from the Master's signal, picking up the key inside the cell and freeing himself. Initially, the experiment works, but later the vampire frees itself, and Ephraim puts a silver bullet in him. Elsewhere, Quinlan and Satrakian grow frustrated with the Oxydo-Lumens metaphors. Quinlan suggests that instead of using photocopies of the book, they should decipher the original book. Since Quinlan had stolen the book earlier, Satrakian is reluctant to read it in front of him. However, he takes it out from the safe after Quinlan promises he will not steal it again. In a flashback of a brothel in Amsterdam, 1972, Satrakian meets the madam and arranges a meeting for him to sell the lumen to a man named Kruger. He suspects Kruger must be Icorst. When Satrakian arrives at the meeting, he discovers that the man he would be selling a fake lumen is not Icorst, but the Nazi Dr. Dreverhaven, who has deceived himself as Kruger. Later, Satrakian removes the fake lumen bound in silver and Kruger immediately realizes it's fake. Furious, he tries to sting Satrakian, but the latter manages to strap the vampire and place him near the sunlight. When Satrakian explores his house and finds a torture chamber with several cut-off limbs, he changes his mind. Full of rage, Satrakian cuts Dreverhaven's limbs off and stuffs his body in a trunk. Then, he throws the trunk at the bottom of the ocean. Back in the present, Icorst turns up to see an ailing Palmer with a new associate, Sanjay Desai. When Sanjay asks Palmer some detailed questions about the important shipment Palmer is overseeing for their enterprise, Palmer takes great offense to the stranger asking him. However, on Icorst's demand, Palmer reports that the ship they're so interested in left Egypt 31 days ago. Although Palmer asks what the shipment is, Icorst refuses to share with him any additional information. Meanwhile, Feraldo worries over a vampire attack inside one of the city's safe zones that has left dozens dead. After tagging and tracing 2 vampires, Vasily discovers an intricate tunnel system that leads to a nest of thousands of sleeping vampires in a chamber beneath Central Park. Later, he tells Feraldo about it and she pledges to hit the site with everything they've got. In the following scene, after being unable to find any way through the metaphors, Satrakian realizes that the authors must have hidden the answers in a way, ensuring that would never be known to a vampire. When Quinlan suggests that vampires would be unable to read a book bound in silver, Satrakian gets an idea and takes the lumen out onto the roof and looks at its pages in the sunlight. Surprisingly, the text appears, which says that the master can be trapped for eternity in a stone sarcophagus lined with an alloy of silver and lead, a tomb for the master and its crimson worm within it. In order to imprison the master, Quinlan and Satrakian must determine his new host first. Satrakian believes he knows the man who would be able to help them. Elsewhere, Satrakian and Quinlan meet a wheelchair-bound Palmer, offering to give him a dose of the master's white in exchange for the master's information. However, Palmer is shocked to hear that Bolivar's body is dead, and the master has chosen a new host. Palmer, who believes he's still of value to the master, assures Satrakian that he can discover the truth. The episode ends with the 2 old men shaking hands on an alliance. Subscribe and hit that like button to help our channel grow. Turn on the notifications so you won't miss any of our new videos. Thanks for watching.